explain to us what exactly you are reporting that's new, because I think we knew prior to last night that Comey was leaking through a Columbia University professor friend of his to the New York Times.
Right. Yeah, we've known for about 4 years now, 5 years, that he used Richmond to leak some memos after he was fired by President Trump that related what Comey's side of these alleged conversations with the president. None of those were deemed, at least the things that Richmond provided the media, were deemed to have classified information in them. What we now learn is that the FBI looked, and we learned that from the Inspector General of the Justice Department, so Administrative Inspector General investigation, which, by the way, severely criticized Comey for not following the rules and requirements of being FBI director, not even following his non-disclosure agreement and the way he leaked information. What we didn't know until the last 24 hours when Kash Patel transmitted these documents to Congress and Just the News got a set of them, is that the FBI looked at Richmond and at least 2 other top lieutenants of James Comey for leaking possible classified information. And for the first time, we get a very detailed response of how Mr. Richmond, a Columbia University law professor who was put on the taxpayer's payroll so he could burnish James Comey's image, what he said his motive was, what he was doing with the New York Times, and how he addressed the leak, a question of whether he leaked confidential information.
Let me just stop you there. I want to start this discussion the same place we started it yesterday, which is the FBI cares very, very deeply about the leak of classified information. We know that because they indicted a president for doing it. They indicted a former president who has the ability to declassify information with really the wave of his hand, the stroke of a pen, in Donald Trump. So they went after him for having classified information at Mar-a-Lago. They accused him of waving it around in a document, allegedly showing it off. That's bad. That's bad. We have to have the rule of law, they told us. So he got indicted down in Palm Beach County, Florida, by Jack Smith in a federal prosecution after an FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago looking for said classified documents, because it's very, very wrong to have classified information or to leak classified information that you shouldn't. And yet the FBI, the same organization, when confronted with the reality that its director, James Comey, was running classified information through his Columbia University pal to the New York Times, didn't seem to give 2 figs, John.
Well, I want to be fair to the FBI. The FBI agents themselves seem to give quite a few figs. They were working hard to solve this. What they couldn't do was get the Justice Department under Donald Trump or under Joe Biden to bring any charges. But they did a pretty good job of figuring out who they thought the leakers were. And I think one of the great moments, and that's why they land on Richmond, right? Let's walk through one of the episodes that the memo lays out. Richmond, Comey's still FBI director at this point. Richmond meets with Comey. Richmond's on the taxpayer's payroll. This is interesting. He's an outside lawyer. He's brought in as a special government employee, which means you and I are paying his salary. And his goal is to work around the press office that we all already pay for the FBI, and who's trained in how to handle these issues. And Comey gets him a top secret
security clearance so that he can access all the information that Comey wants to leak.
That's right. He basically has the same level of security clearance as Comey, high level, up to SCI. That's especially compartmental intelligence. So he's being treated like a guy. He's an insider of the FBI. He's not. He's working around the press office that you and I also pay for. And his goal isn't specifically to do the work of the FBI. He says his goal was to burnish James Comey's tattered or hammered, I think he uses the word hammered image, and to set future narratives, i.e. Russia collusion, i.e. Donald Trump is a Russian stooge who should be indicted, and that he tried to obstruct his friend, James Comey. So we now know that's what he told the FBI under penalty of being charged with lying to the FBI if you don't tell the truth. And then he's in a meeting. He gets access to very sensitive, highly classified information. And then a short while later, he has a conversation with Mike Schmidt, who then eventually writes a story based on that classified information. And this gentleman, Mr. Richmond, says, oh yeah, we talked about it. He seemed to already know about it. I don't think I confirmed it. And I'm sure with a discount, I'm sure, quote, comma, with a discount, comma, I didn't give him the information. Now, who needs a discount on truth when you're denying whether you leak something? This is like one of the great non-denial answers in American history. Sort of like when Bill Clinton said in his grand jury testimony, I don't think I lied on Monica Lewinsky because it really depends on what the meaning of the word is. That was once considered to be one of the greatest dodges in a grand jury testimony. Here he's talking to the FBI and he qualifies his denial by saying, I'm sure, with a discount, meaning you better give me some a cut on this, I didn't leak. That's the dead end that the FBI found itself in. They believed and went to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department said, nah, we're not going to prosecute him. Just like they said, nah, we're not going to look at Adam Schiff.
And which Justice Department and which Attorney General?
There are, they make multiple inquiries in the U.S. Attorney's Office of Washington, 17, 18, 19, and 20. I think the case memo eventually closes in late 19 or 20. At that time, I think Bill Barr would most likely have been Attorney General or coming on as Attorney General. So this is a Trump declination, though obviously at the career level. I doubt it got to the top levels of the political appointees.
And why would the DOJ decline to go after him, Comey, and let's go back to what we discussed yesterday, the high-level congressional staffer who said Adam Schiff said he was going to leak classified information and that he could get away with it because he was going to say the speech and debate clause was going to protect him. So why would, under the Trump administration, these DOJ officials have repeatedly said, we're not interested?
Yeah, the answer is they didn't feel like they could prove with 100% certainty, given the denial or the non-denial or the qualified denial that Mr. Richmond said
denial
that he
with
was
the
the
discount.
leaker. Yeah, the denial with the discount. One we'll remember for a long time, I think. And by the way, it turns out in this morning's story, there are literally 6 code name classified leak investigations. The FBI opened 6 criminal investigations. They all had fun code names like Arctic Frost or Christmas something. They had all these weird names, but in all of them, the same result occurred. The Justice Department declined prosecution. And people will say, okay, and then they go after Donald Trump. But then when they find Joe Biden's classified documents, they don't prosecute him. What you see in this history, when you take everything from Richmond and some other lieutenants of the FBI, I want to get to that in a second, something Pam Bondi's Justice Department did that probably has to be reversed. You see that if it's a Democrat, Hillary Clinton, our classified emails on the server, or if it's a friend of Democrats, James Comey, you're not going to get indicted. They'll make up some explanation for why they've decided it's too hard to prosecute you. But if you're Donald Trump, and even though you might have the declassifying power, we're going to raid your home with a show of force. We're going to go through your drawers, and then we're going to indict you. And I think when you look at that track record, it is an undeniable track record that people are treated different in almost the identical circumstances, and it's very troubling.
They don't want to go after anybody with power. And you can see why maybe even people at the top of Trump's DOJ, potentially at the 1.0 we're talking about, and or FBI, didn't have the appetite to go after the former FBI director, a person who's in an equally powerful position to the one that they hold now, or the identical position to the one that they were holding then. But those rules don't apply for Donald Trump, right? And you're hearing it right now as people are saying, how dare they discuss Barack Obama facing criminal indictment? How dare they talk about indicting a former president? The cluelessness, John, given that they're the ones who set all these new standards, that we are going to do all that.
Well, listen, the cluelessness, the greatest aider and abettors of the last 10 years of misery that this country has been put through false scandals and false stories and false narratives and weaponization is the co-conspirators that these actors had in the media. When you look at what Mr. Richmond, Daniel Richmond's talking about when he's dealing with Michael Schmidt in the New York Times. He admits he had a motive. My motive wasn't to give a complete story to the New York Times. It was to make sure that James Comey looked better than he had looked and to set narratives that were going to be out there. And we now know those narratives
because why does he need
narratives.
access to classified information if all he needs to do is make James Comey look like a good man?
It's a great question, right? These are really important questions that didn't get fully addressed.
So what do we think the effect of the sparring between President Donald Trump and the Fed is going to be? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time? Do we trust in that? Or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown as they slow roll any of their moves as they worry about his tariffs? And what exactly does all of this mean for your savings? You might want to consider diversifying right about now with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. And Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep it in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. Just text MK to the number 989898. Again, text MK to 989898, and you'll start the process of just getting the 411 on what it means to own gold. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. So if the Fed cannot stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead of the curve for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.